welcome to another episode of the IIA Podcast. I am Nilanjan Roy, the host for today's podcast. And today we have with us Mr. Vaibhav Dobriyal, who is the co-founder and chief product officer at LUMIQ. He's more commonly known as Dobi. So welcome to the podcast, Dobi.
Thank you, Nilanjan. Thank you for having me here. It's always a pleasure.
Excellent. So, Dobi, we can start by you having introduced yourself and your company to the audience, and then we'll go into certain specific questions about your company and the industry in general.
Thank you. So, my name is Dobi. As you mentioned, I'm a chief product officer and co-founder at LUMIQ. LUMIQ does data and AI for financial services. We have been doing it for the last 11 years. So, um, if you were to really summarize our experience, financial services, data, AI, cloud, that's it. So, deeply engaged with 8.5 years back, when the whole cloud and AI started coming up. Back then, it was called big data analytics. That is when we started. And we have been continuously iterating, keeping ourselves abreast. So, be it things like generative AI, agentic enterprise, you'll see us solving there. What's been really helpful for us is that we have been operating at the cusp of both business and technology. See, there's one big void in the industry. There are good techies who don't understand business that much, and there are awesome business folks who don't understand tech. With us at LUMIQ, you'll see that we have bridged that gap quite well, right? So when you are talking to us, we understand that when, for example, in insurance, when I'm talking to the life insurance, underwriting is a much more complicated process compared to, let's say, a motor insurance, right? And we know the nuances of claims for a PNC is much more compared to this thing. When you have this kind of a lens, right, it becomes easier for you to align with what business is trying to achieve, why they are bringing in the tech. At the end of it, tech is an enabler, right? So well, that's been our journey. I'm lucky to have been working with who's who of the industry, be it insurance, be it banking, and be it capital markets.
Sure. Thank you so much, Dobi, for that. As an industry leader at LUMIQ, which focuses on financial services and insurance, what is your assessment of the key trends, shaping the industry today? And the second part of the question will be based on these shifts, where do you see the industry heading in the next few years?
That's one of my favorite questions and conversations at work, at home, everywhere, right? See, let's talk about specifically about insurance. There are three key things in my mind that are shaping up where we are, right? One is the evolution of the regulator. More often than not, people don't talk so much about regulator. What is happening with the regulator is there is a huge mindset shift from the role that, I mean, I would be unfair, but from a policing or a compliance kind of a role, they have moved into a mindset where we are being pushed to collaborate, to think about insurance positively in a new way, right? The 2047 vision of insurance for all, initiatives like Bima Sugam, flexibility to bring in new innovative products faster. These were the things that, regulators were not talking about for years. There was a lot of talk around policy and everything, but the role of the regulator has changed. The regulators are open to collaboration and encouraging the industry as a whole to move, right? They're embracing this thing. And you see this trend. I call it a paradigm shift in terms of, the way the regulators typically operated. That's one. Second is customer demands. The moment you switch and start thinking ourselves as customers, we have become so demanding, and I really like it, right? So you always, our customers are asking us to know them better. They are asking us to serve them faster and wow them everywhere. Every experience counts, right? When this kind of a thing happens, what happens is you carry your experience of, let's say, shopping on an e-commerce platform to when you are buying insurance. You take the same experience when you are applying for a claim, and you get irritated when it doesn't get met, right? This creates a pressure which forces insurers to innovate, and I really like, when customers push. So, and as a customer, I am also pushing, right, when I'm buying more, these services. So that mindset is driving a set of innovation. Third is what is happening in AI world. That's being a techie. There has never been a better time. If you look at it, right, with the arrival of logic, reasoning specifically, not logic, but reasoning. If you see, right, and the efforts that were spent in organizing our policy admin systems and our journeys and everything, there is a whole wave of digitization that has happened with this data, and specifically what has happened in AI and the rapid pace at which it is advancing. It has opened up new opportunities to do so much more, right? It has opened up areas where it was not possible to look at. See, we were programming instructions to computers all these years. Now we are moving to intent, communicating in intent. It's such a fundamental paradigm shift. If you were to ask me, these key things, and then there are market factors and everything, I think they were always there. They'll continue to, there are upsides, downsides, everything. But if I were to boil it down, three things: the evolution of the regulator, the customer demands, the new kind of insurance companies, new kinds of journeys, new kinds of pricing they are pushing for because they demand more. And third is what is happening on the tech world. Those are the three big things that I talk about as something that I think personally are very important and critical in the way they are shaping up our industry. And there was second part of the question. Sorry, I
Sure.
forgot that.
No,
Can
so
you please
that's
repeat one? Yeah.
no, no. So I think the second part of the question was more around what are some of the shifts, and I think you covered that beautifully. And the 3 points that you mentioned out of that, let me pick up the third point where you were talking about the rapid advent of AI and all the possibilities that it is opening up. So my next question is, in the post Chat GPT era, it has brought AI to the forefront of every conversation. And given your company's expertise in data and AI for financial services, how do you see AI transforming the industry in practical terms? And what are some of the biggest opportunities and challenges that you believe it kind of poses for your company and the industry?
You rightly used the word post chat GPT era, right? So there was one post pandemic era, and now we are in this post chat GPT era. See what has happened is, I'll give you one interesting fact. It took 10 years for internet to reach the usage levels that chat GPT reached in 4 years. In 4 months, sorry, right? 10 years versus 4 months. If you look at the time frame, right, it's huge. Now, what has happened is we got a technology, but at the same time, we got this technology earlier than it was fully baked. And what it translated to is a lot of fast movements and advancements. So, on one side, you could look at it as something which is unbaked or not yet ready. Second is it has opened up all of us to imagine, and those who have a sense of direction where it is going are able to innovate much faster. So if you were to ask me about post chat GPT era, what has happened is a couple of things. One is, see, every application that we had one purpose, just to capture data. We had business processes, and business processes were forcing data into systems. That was the reality of what was getting done mostly. We got digitization. The digitization created more data. If I talk about core business processes, right? We were just taking these processes, coding our instructions, and getting these systems out. That's what essentially was happening. And humans were responsible solely for all kinds of orchestrations, instructions, all kinds of decision making. AI today, and I'm very proud because we were one of those early adopters and started experimentation, on it, is good enough in certain use cases to drive to an autonomy factor where it moves to a role of collaborator, and it's a huge shift. One is you look at it as, we had RPA, we had tech tracks of the world, we had OCRs. That's low level intelligence. But if you look at it right, today it has reached levels where if you smartly craft solutions, right, if you understand the problems well, you could get into an area where it could work as a collaborator. And that's huge. When you are a collaborator, what potentially happens is I can tell you my intent, right? You can code it, you can orchestrate it, you can do decision. I'm not going into tech side of it, but all of it is a reality and something which is in production, right? This is a huge shift. It changes the way you look at workflows. It questions everything. Now it solves two problems for us. One is the information overload which digitization produced, right? So if you look at it, when I was reading an interesting survey, 64% of the underwriters feel that technology is not helping them today. They are getting much more data. They have to go through that data, in a way all alone, trying but that those work weeks have become longer and longer. But what is the possibility today is you have AI as a collaborator, which, if used rightly to solution, could could force you to focus into areas which were left out in this whole pile up of information. And that I believe is path breaking. So again, two, three things I can share you with. One is this AI advancement where it moves to a role of a collaborator, not just a tech which sits outside a model in isolation, early claims or whatever, right? How we were innovating. The second thing is when it moves into a collaborator area, it can change the journeys where humans put their mind and energy into solving where AI flags things for them. This is what you should look up. And of course, underwriting, for example, is a detail-oriented process. You have everything. But I believe all our systems are feeding us too much information. So that can change. So these two things, when combined together, what it simply translates to is new kind of interactions. We no longer call it as a UI, for example, in LUMIQ, we call it UUAI, Unified User and AI Interface. To put that you are collaborating on that interface, right? And then the second, this advancement where it can really come in as a collaborator. I think these are the two big things. Now, what challenges it opens up? Oh, of course. I mean, when you play with this technology, it can bring up challenges, but those challenges are not new to AI. They were there even before. You have to bring in trust. You have to open up the AI's brain to for the business users to feel how it works, right? Because explainability, trust is critical. You have to think of implementation, right? You have to go minimize your risk. Just like, for example, you take a junior person into your organization and give them autonomy. So it could be, for example, an underwriter could have a decision limit and so on as they grow into the ecosystem, right? So these are the challenges that need to be thought through. So the focus on solutioning is much more. The role of technology is changing. AI becomes a collaborator. And third is this reimagining of the UIs and journeys. I think these are the three things which have to be watch out for. You miss out on governance, you miss out on cost, all those things are there. So basically, we have to be even more aware today as people coming from technology, as people coming from business, and open our I think we are right now, most of us are constrained by our imagination. The technology is moving at such a fast pace that we have to go back and start reimagining things. What if this? What if that? And I think that's the challenge and that's the opportunity.
Sure. So let me come to the next question. So your company Lumic, has been at the cutting edge of AI-driven innovations in the financial services sector. Of all the solutions you are implementing, which one do you believe is the most relevant and why?
That's a very interesting question. So, when AI came out, right? Okay, so when we started, it was big data analytics. Sorry, I'll give you some chronology. Then came the first wave of AI, ML, machine learning was in, right? The third, now the wave of generative AI. Uh, if you look at all the things that were happening, right? There was the computers were always receiving instructions, right? With the agentic paradigm emerging, and after the reasoning became available, and still it's I'll call it very nascent. It's not at a very advanced stage, but it's moving in that direction, right? It opens up a new paradigm, right? That paradigm opens up of thinking core workflows and bringing AI AI at the center of everything. I'll give you an example. When you were doing underwriting before, right? You had a let's say an early claims model or a fraud detection model who were sitting. These models were often sitting on the periphery. You would make a call, bring it intelligence. You are still focused on your journeys and everything, pumping in all the data and a lot of things happening, right? This document will come, we'll do extraction. But essentially, it was a lot of work which was being done and everything was codified. When it's codified, you can't change it fast enough, right? There is translation risk. There are so many things. With the new paradigm, when we started looking at it, what we thought is, okay, can IT or our solutions move into an avatar of business users itself? We started calling them AI knowledge workers, right? The idea of AI knowledge worker was you take an industry foundation. You create a small SLM which is focused onto the industry, teach insurance only to it because you don't want hallucinations and everything, right? You take that, and then on top of it, you teach it specific skills, and that's where right. There's that okay, you want to do underwriting? Let's teach her. Let's teach the SLM insurance and then underwriting, right? So it has a narrower universe, but it's very good, right? And then there also you create multiple. layer where you say, hey, specialize in medical underwriting, specialize in financial underwriting, specialize in general and KYC underwriting, right? So when you start looking at it, right, and when we started stitching together, right, what we realized is now the technology has the potential to actually mimic and create an underwriter. And that is something which was really path-breaking for us because see, look at our pedigree and our background, right? We built those BREs, we built those machine learning models for underwriting. And then when we came here, what we realized is, oh, you needed data, you needed rules, you needed so much. But actually, all of them were around one fact. There is an underwriting guideline and there is a certain way of doing it and there is an SOP, and that's it, right? So that, and when we developed this capability to one organize these underlying models, SLMs, like I mentioned, the verticalization, insurance, and then skill, and then we started shaping up. That's how our knowledge workers were born, and that's how Leo was born. And what's interesting about Leo is Leo can actually do full underwriting, and it's been on its job since November 24. So if you ask me, this opens up the world in a very different level, right? You can reimagine how the middle office in insurance works, right? Okay, I'll tell you, insurance is the only product, and I'll tell you the possibilities. What is exciting me? See, until now, insurance is the only product which people say is sold twice. You actually sell it to the customer, the agent is sitting there and comes back, and the back office team and the underwriting is happening. With this, what you could do is you could bridge the whole journey, right? So when the agent is sitting there and there itself, you get the information, you get the form, and you plug your Leo inside, right? And Leo, because it's like cloud, right? It's scalable, it's fast, and the flexibility and the way it has been built, it can actually do underwriting there and there itself. So if you need another document, if you need more pay slips, while your salesperson is sitting then and there itself, imagine what friction it removes from your journey, right? In that one conversation, when you have establish the intent and need for the customer, you could close the whole journey of of selling insurance or buying insurance for the customer at the same time. I think this was not possible until now. And when it was possible, the path was riddled with translation challenges. The path was riddled with, too many players, too many complications. I think it all gets settled. And I'm talking about underwriting, claims is no different. Your relationship management is no different. So for our vision, it's very simple. Bring these AI knowledge workers, help organize these journeys, and all your existing systems, your policy admin systems, and everything become just system of records. So take AI, build around the core of AI these things. So and that's how you shape up, right? And again, I'm talking about underwriting. You could look at the whole new business journeys. You take it from life, you take it to health underwriting. It's all the same. The businesses are built on workflows. And when you start looking at workflows and you're looking at the tooling and the approach that I have, the possibilities are endless. It keeps me awake, it keeps me excited, and it keeps all of us busy on our toes that, you could do so much more. And if there is anything in this piece, for example, people had reservations around document reading, text tract, OCR was not. But now with VLM, the visual models, right? It's even possible. I mean, I can say very confidently, if a human can read it, a machine can read that document, right? And more importantly, sometimes the machine beats the human because it can adjust the contrast, it can look beyond the obvious, right? So we are bound by our experiences in the past and the limitations that the tech has. And that's what it is. So AI knowledge workers and the vision that we are now carrying is go after each one of these workflows and provide native workers. So if you look at it, right, a company like us is actually transforming not just being a data and AI partner, but actually a workforce provider, right? So it's it's it- it's very interesting and very exciting, and it's open for all, right? Anybody can come and take this technology, build it like this. You just need to have a vision. You need to have an understanding of the solution space, and you need to understand. So if you look at it more clearly, why? And I ask these questions often to our team: why are we able to do it, right? We're able to do it because we know these problem statements so deep, right? For example, my team can go down and sit with underwriters and have a conversation around corner cases that they have, right? That maybe this scenario is, I've seen them go and say, oh, this scenario you know from experience, but it's missing in your guidelines. It's actually into your BRE, right? When you start, when you have that kind of a depth of business domain, business expertise, and financial services this deep, and then when you understand the possibilities that AI is bringing up, I think that's it. So models are going to get commoditized, foundation models are going to get cheaper, the possibilities are going better. The only thing is you have to keep an eye for the challenges I talked about, right? Your governance controls, your not now it's you have to there is a lot more focus that needs to be on solutioning than on tech. Tech, I think, will become easier. That's what keeps us interesting, engaged all the time.
No, no, absolutely. I think some of the points that you covered, they're very powerful because I think, and what Lumic is doing by harnessing the power of AI and the way you are trying to solve insurers' problem, I think in a long way it goes on to kind of that insurance for all mandate that's there, the aspiration that's there from the regulator. Uh, it kind of tends to that. It kind of supports that vision, and everybody wants insurance to be more easy, and which it isn't. So at this point, let me come back and ask you a different question, and which is more around what would be your message to the Indian insurtech community, and especially what do you think about that IIA, the Indian Insurtech Association, should be doing more to kind of help promote this sector?
Oh, that's another interesting question. So two things, right? One is, of course, you are already bringing people from industry, and you are bringing people who are trying to innovate in these areas. I think there has never been a time where we can go even more focused on possibilities around AI. Why I'm talking about this, see, industry has been having a list of problem statements that are unsolved, right? If we are able to compile a list of problem statements that are unsolved, then with today's technologies, I'm sure there are people or companies like Lumic will be more than happy to do it, right? Why it doesn't happen is there are a couple of things at play, right? One is the approach around these is usually hackathons. These are not hackathon materials, right? These are not Kaggle problems where you put everything data and then somebody brings in a smart this thing. What I'm talking about is maybe if we are able to create a solution platform, right, where people can post their problems and people can then create solutions. It will help the industry in two ways. One, I don't know, maybe there is still a problem where, when you have cattle insurance, the buffalo, which was insured and now it has died, right? Somebody wants to compare and do a dedupe or do a this thing, whether it's the same buffalo, which was, I don't know whether that problem is still solved or not, right? But the point is, if you were to look for this kind of a repository of problems which the industry needs, it's usually missing, right? People like us are guessing coming from our side, what we observe. But again, I always say this: I'm not an insurance industry guy. I have only 8.5 years of innovating with insurers, and thanks to our customers, right? But if we are able to bring such kind of a platform where there are problem statements, and then people like us can come and bring solutions, and then maybe that will help the whole industry. Somehow the government tries to do this role, but then it doesn't work. But if we are able to solve this, this could be innovation for everyone. And I'm not talking about use cases. It's beyond that marketing this thing, right? I'm genuinely talking about listing out these problem statements, and they could be weighed, and then people could come together. Second message from a tech perspective that I want to pass out, and then I want to call out, and I don't know if you guys can help us or not, is see, the technology is born with an expiry date. It's just that it's not printed, right? So collectively, if we look at it, right, how do we pass on that message that when we build something and it runs for some time, it's bound to have problems? Can we figure out those proactive ways where we have mechanism in this thing that, and that's what actually happened with Extract, right? We lived for it for too long. And even now, a lot of companies are still not going to visual models for various reasons, right? See, cost is not always the only concern. You could solve cost problems, right? And if in the problem. So the second thing that I'm saying is maybe we start having this lens that, that here's the technology which is moving in its maturity, this thing, and then we try to solve it and pass on that message that, hey, this is the time to relook at it and reimagine and these technical solutions that could bring huge immense values because eventually insurance like banking is going to go into the same paradigm, right? I mean, you don't go to a bank. you don't go to an insurer. But if you were to transact as frequently as you do, touch your bank account, I'm sure today's industry will not be able to match up. So those are the two things. Third, I think you guys are already doing a great job, bringing people from both sides onto the forum, and I encourage you to do that. Have these conversations where all of us can come together and learn. So maybe if we're able to solve the first problem, that would be like awesome. All of us would want to participate and solve practical, real problems. That's the kick for us also.
Sure,
Yep.
sure, sure. No, I think that's like the nail has been hit right where it has to be, because yes, that's the idea of creating this particular forum. We want these kind of interactions to happen more. And the the founder community, the user community, and the larger insurance community, including the regulator, everybody comes together and we all talk about the future. And I think the most hard-hitting statement of today was that, and every technology has an expiry date. So yes, so we always have to be prepared for what's new. So with that, we would end this podcast today. Thank you so much for being here today and sharing your thoughts. And look forward to continue our chat, on other forums, in the future.
Thank you, Nilanjan. It's a pleasure, and thank you for having me here. It's always good to talk about things that personally I'm very passionate about.
Thank you so much.
Okay.